All right, we need to talk. Hey, what's up? I'm Britt and welcome back to another episode. This has been an episode in the making for a while. If you have been hanging out with me over in my corner of squares, you've noticed that things have changed quite a bit. And I think just getting to a point of trying to put it into words and share with you all, because a lot has happened. So much has happened. So I'm going to do my best to kind of share this. So this is going to be an episode that is kind of just off the cuff, and we're going to riff a little bit about what's been going on and just keeping it really real and behind the scenes and down to earth. And I feel like that is honestly the theme for this year of going into it. It's taking me, let's see, today is the 28th, so end of January. And I'm finally getting to the point where I'm feeling out my goals, and I've really been in a state of really deep wintering, which makes sense when I look in retrospect what these last few months have looked like for me, both personally and my business and just in the day-to-day. And so I think I had to really just be honest with myself day to day and understand not only what I needed every day, but like just kind of in the overall scheme of what this season looked like for me and what I was feeling and what I wanted it to look like and where my energy was. And as a mom, as a business owner, there's lots of moving parts. So I think just kind of feeling out the winter. So if you've been feeling that way, you're not alone. I hope that makes you feel a little bit seen. And here's the thing as well, in that the state of wintering and like when we follow the seasons, we start to live a little bit more aligned in the way that we were kind of created and meant to go through, because the actual, like when we were following, if you follow the lunar year and follow the moons and whatnot, the Hebrew calendar follows this. In the Bible, you'll see this too. We didn't start using the solar calendar until about 200 years ago when we moved, and like please feel free to fact check me on this, because this is my understanding of it. But we had the spring equinox, which was actually the new year, so that's why things would come alive. We'd set goals then, but then when we have the solar new year, that is in January. When we start a new year, it's been one full loop of the sun, and that's what marks a brand new year. So, okay, editing Brittany coming back in just to deliver some of the research that I found on this, and I knew that this was going to bother me. So, from what I found with this is that we switched to using the solar calendar system back when Julius Caesar did it, so 45 BCE, but we didn't use it internationally until about 1582. So a good 400 years almost, just over. And so the other thing though is that we still very much use the lunar calendar, which is what I'm kind of referring to, and a lot of more cultural practices. So while we use the solar calendar for kind of international use and everyday use, we do use the lunar calendar when it comes to more cultural things, such as anyone in the witchy world, anyone who studies astrology goes by the moons, as well as the Hebrew calendar, the Chinese New Year, a ton of stuff like that. So that is just a little bit of the information that I found to kind of help you navigate what I'm trying to explain. If you're feeling kind of out of alignment and feeling like you really kind of want to be more reclusive and take a slower beat to the day, then it's because you're following your natural inner winter, and you're still kind of adjusting to wait for that early spring to come. That's when we all start coming alive. That's when we get a lot of ideas and inspiration and creativity, and we kind of come out of a space where we've been maybe moving a little bit slower. We've been focusing on the heartbeat and the strings attached below underneath and kind of doing that work. So that's why this episode has kind of been in the making, because I think I've just been following my natural lead of understanding what that is and trying to figure out how to put it into words. So I've been keeping notes. If you know me, I keep a notes app. I always tell my husband, if I ever die, please delete my Google search history and my notes app, because the amount of thoughts that I have a day where I just have to close the loop is insane. Nothing bad or ominous, obviously. My brain is just a dumpster fire really of all these ideas. So let's segue into kind of talking about what happened back in October. The only way that I can probably describe the best of what happened over the last few months is kind of the dark night of the soul for my business in so many ways. Not only had I come off of a season of like really redefining, and if you've been following my journey, restructuring my business in a way that really honored my role as a mom and honored my role as a business owner. And not only that, but as a creative, as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, I really restructured in a way that made sense to allow for all of that. But come October, there was a little predestined incident, I feel like, that happened. So here we're just going to do a little bit of story time, but it was a really close friend's birthday and we all decided to get together, just a little girls' night, me and 2 other gals. And somehow it was very last minute, wasn't planned. We had changed plans and come up with the idea of having a medium over. What ended up happening, and like I said, all last minute. If you follow me around, you know that I've used tarot cards before. I've tapped into I would never have called myself intuitive. I feel like I've definitely had premonitions before. I've had senses of knowings, but like, I feel like maybe dabbled in the art of spirituality, witchiness, and overall the deeper spiritual side. So as we went to this medium came over. We had gone to a meditation beforehand, just kind of set the vibe for everything. We're enjoying some snacks and whatnot. And this medium came over, absolutely fabulous. If you're local to the Lehigh Valley, I'm happy to refer you. He was great. I have never been to a medium at this point whatsoever, never had any kind of experience at all. So this was totally new for me. And honestly, not that I was skeptic, but like I didn't feel like anyone would come through to me because I grew up with only my 2 grandpas who were alive. And I lost them when I was maybe about 8. So like enough to be close, but not like a huge part of my life. And other than that, never really, lost like significant amount of people. So maybe I just didn't feel like anyone would step forward. And so as we were sitting here kind of like introducing, I just had this like overwhelming urge just to like sit and like, I don't know, like it was very odd for me. I'm very bubbly. If you know me in person, I am always there to introduce myself. And I just didn't feel this need to do that. I just kind of sat there and we went around, introduced ourselves. And so I was the last one. I was like, oh, I'm Britt. And he goes, you're Britt. You've had a line of people waiting and bugging me all day. They're very anxious to talk to you. And I'm just sitting here going like, what? And before that, he had just sat here and looked at me and he was like, you have a lot of witchy vibes too. And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know. And like, that's just how the whole night started. Coming out anyway, that at the end of it, not only did I have grandparents step through who, it was just sweet messages, really, really cool to just see the healing on the other side and what's possible and like believe what you want with that. But at the same time too, there was an extreme acknowledgement of my abilities and that what I had been experiencing, I was associating as normal and like what other people feel, which goes along the lines too of like my work every day, and that I feel like anyone can build a business every day. It's one of my true beliefs. I feel like if someone really wants to do something, they can go and just set out to go do it. You want to learn how to do XYZ? Okay, let's go do it. You want to build a business so that you can create some extra income? All right, let's set a plan. Let's just do it. And I realized a few years ago in a conversation with my husband, he's like, no, not everyone thinks that way. And I'm like, really? I really thought everyone did. I thought it was, I really did not know it was just me, but apparently it's not a common thought just to set out and go do something as, easy as cutting butter. So come to the thing, he's like, what you've been experiencing is absolutely your abilities trying to make them self-known. And you're at a point where you either choose to accept them or you push them away and kind of leave them in the background and don't use them. So I kind of like had this thing where some of the things that I was experiencing had actually heightened before this, like the months leading up to it. And again, I didn't associate it. So one of them, and like this is anyone who is spiritual, I always love hearing these conversations. And obviously I've been in my deep dive being a type A person, deep diving after all of this went down and like trying to research as much as I could to understand, because it's very hard. And I feel like, especially when you're an intuitive, any kind of psychic abilities, like sometimes it can be a very lonely road. But I think maybe I was like used to navigating that, being a mom who's built a business while raising babies. And so as the months leading up to it, I had really, I guess, like strong intuition growing up, or maybe just like the inside of my voice I could hear very, very well. That is part of your intuition. I believe everyone has intuition, But what I had started hearing was actually voices beforehand. And I thought there was these instances where I would think that my kids were talking to me, and I'd yell up the stairs, "What did you say?" And they're like, "We didn't say anything." It kept happening multiple times over and over. And so it was just very odd. I've had the ability before to sense when I feel like I'm not alone in the room, eyes on me. If you felt this before, you definitely know that. And then when I have had, just trying to understand more so the spirits around me, I've been able to feel since becoming a mom. I feel like that was something that really opened myself up. And my kids would bring things in. When kids are younger, newer, they tend to be more open because they don't have the conditioning of the world. So if you ever hear the stories of like kids talking to ancestors who have passed away and whatnot, that's why, is because they call it the veil, the line between death and life is very much so close together, because you just kind of have that Passover. It's where we have near-death experiences. People will experience things. And so for me, that was just being able to kind of, I don't know, there would be moments where I'd be able to sense things. My husband's side, I definitely learned a lot more. Having kids started opening that up. And so his family would definitely, they're more intuitive as well. And so there would be certain things we've gone to like different tours and walkthroughs and whatnot. And we would have things being set off. They would bring some, the people who led the tour, they would bring out some what are they, like electromagnetic readers and whatnot that would beep if they go off, if there's energy in the room. I'm a full believer in science as well. And so there would be these things that would be like, oh, I was like, I would be like, I sense that it's a male energy. They just feel very different. If you've been able to sense any kind of energies or spirits like that, things feel very different. Also at the same time too, whenever I kind of step into anything kind of intuitive, I always thought it was my grandma on my dad's side. It's actually my grandma on my mom's side and her mom, who passed away when she was very little. So they actually come through together, is what I learned out when the medium had talked to me. And so I always feel them touch my left shoulder every single time, which I learned going down my deep dive. The left side is kind of the feminine side. So I always get goosebumps or chills down. I kind of feel like there's like just I don't know, like a presence, like a little love tap and whatnot. So that had been occurring too. The other thing that I realized too, is that when I would close my eyes, any kind of trying to meditate or just think or whatnot, which we'll get into meditation in a second, I see colors very vividly. And funny enough, the meditation that we went to before we went and saw this medium at the house, I had seen these visions coming through. It was a renewal. It was, oh my goodness, what is it? It was, I don't remember. It was a full moon meditation. It was very powerful. Love it. Love working with the moon. And when I was just sitting here doing it, it was kind of, talking about ashes, and I can't remember what full moon it is. This is how like together I am today. And as we were talking about, it was kind of like releasing. It was a really great releasing meditation and like letting go of what doesn't serve us and whatnot. And so I saw this, we burnt some sage and whatnot, which I've always loved saging, love taking care of the energy in the house. It's always a big thing for me, especially since as the girls call it, my kids call it spookies that come into the house. So I'm very protective of our space, always been that way. And so when I sat there and when we were doing our meditation, I could see the feathers, and I could see these like ashes going off into, this is all in my mind's eye, which it just felt so off to me. I'm like, this is so vivid. This is so weird. I'm like sitting here having this conversation with myself as we're having this meditation, because obviously that's very on brand for me. And I could see that. So I remember asking in the car to the two other gals with me, I'm like, how was the meditation? Like, did you guys see anything while you were meditating? And they're like, no. And like totally side-eyed me. And I'm like, oh, yep, me too. And like, I guess maybe that was just like getting me ready for like what was going on. The universe was like, oh, buckle up. This is what's going to happen. So long story short, went through the medium, who was amazing. And then like after that, like so many things started just unfolding. This is where I felt that I truly needed to like step into kind of the inner knowledge, the inner knowings that I've been experiencing, the working in ways with clients that I had been really wanting to, but not being able to in a way. And a lot of this was fear. A lot of this was like just not putting myself in the right, I guess, room, because I would be working with clients, especially when it comes to marketing. And I really had to define this and like figure out what felt good for me. But like I'd be working with clients and like my bread and butter is brand strategy, content strategy, social strategy. And honestly, at the end of the day, putting together these campaigns that just felt so experience driven, but so almost like just magical, like being able to say and put together the right words with the right music and the right rhythm and the right like unfolding. And so it created this experience. And when I would be working hand in hand with the entrepreneurs and the clients that would be like, okay, take the lead, let's do this, the results were insane. And the clients who kind of had some pushback, which they absolutely can because it's their business, things would kind of just get sticky and kind of fall apart. And it's not that we didn't get results. They just weren't as magnetic and like magnetizing as the clients who would like fully allow me to guide them, I guess. And so I really came into this thing where I just needed to like, I remember, so we ended up having to go on a trip to go visit family really quick in Arizona. One of them had fallen ill and we said, heck, let's just do it. Pack the kids up, had to pack the dogs up because our senior dog happened to be sick during that same time. And so what ended up happening, all I kept hearing is, I'm not quite sure if this was my intuition or my spirit team, spirit guides, whatever, but it was just burn it down, burn it down, burn it down, burn it down. It was like the message. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. I get it. I get it. But I'm like, but what does that mean? And like, I think that's the hardest part that's been for me throughout this entire thing is learning and trusting and doing this and letting it unfold with no plan, with no answers, because, and I actually had this confirmed in working with a business coach who is spiritual and witchy, and she had done a tarot card reading for me, and she said, your people are really loud and they keep saying she's not supposed to know. This is part of the journey. Like, and I understand it fully. Is it driving me insane? Yes. But being 4 months into this now and understanding and being like, wow, I see why they weren't giving me answers and why I needed to figure this out myself, is because the things that I've been able to do and build are all directly linked to, one, letting go of the fear of embracing my gifts, embracing the witchy side of myself, but two, doing things in a way that have been led by my gifts and my abilities versus looking for the plan, looking for the strategy, looking for the more masculine part of life. And that has led me to way more than I can ever imagine. And a bigger purpose and that, a bigger ability to step into the purpose I was already trying to step into and feeling drawn to. So that is where this has led to, of kind of catching things up. And so my brand has been looking a bit differently. My offerings of working with clients has looked a little bit different. And it's been super fun to be able to do that. So this is just a little catch up. We have so much coming up for 2025. I'm so excited to be able to put this in here because what we've seen, not only in the marketing trends of what is going on and how things are kind of shifting, because I'm sure if you're a business owner and you're watching this, you can kind of feel that marketing has shifted a little bit. It does every year, but I've been going to the deep dive of the data, which I started doing last year and starting putting things together because I kind of, I intuitively felt these changes that were happening. And I felt it going down this way, and now it's kind of like confirmed and we're seeing a lot more people do it. So I'm so excited to be able to dive into these trends. I'm actually going to be doing a video on this next, so stay tuned. Make sure that you're following on the podcast, subscribing and whatnot. I'm going to walk through a bunch of different ways of how we're seeing these trends and how you can, if you're wanting to like stand out in the market, do things differently and really make sure that you're, find an easier way to get not only in front of your people, but like build a magnetic brand, build a brand that is not afraid to stand out in the market and like truly be one of a kind. I'm breaking down all of these because I think that we're going to see a major shift in the next few years of everyone doing this. But I feel like the businesses who are going to believe in it and take advantage of it in the beginning are going to be like a million steps, not only ahead in creating their purpose and putting it out there, but two, they're just going to feel so much more aligned with their business and less wanting to burn it down. So I'm so excited to bring that to you. But overall, that is what's been happening in our world. We have so many different things going on in this next year, just navigating just life in general. So personally, I'm going to end this on this note because I feel like I could go on forever with it. But a big word for me this year is just living fully. And I feel like having been in a place I didn't realize how much fear I was kind of like trying to have to like control and navigate life so much. So in every sense of the aspect, like that's the word that came through. Last year was intention. I built a lot of routines. I was really intentional with my energy, my spaces, my home, the different roles that I took on. And I think this year it's not necessarily saying yes to everything, but saying yes to things that are a hell yeah, and yes to things that are really aligned, and really not letting fear touch that at all. It's living fully in the moments of motherhood, living fully in my role and dreams of as a role as I am as a wife. It's my living fully in dreams that come to me for my business. It's living fully in life in the everyday and life in the big dreams, and stop letting fear control it. I've realized so much. I've been doing so much shadow work behind it. It's been such a healing journey throughout this. The other thing that we're super excited for is this year we would love to get pregnant with another baby, our last baby. We really want to have our fourth one. We've been currently going through and working with a fertility clinic. So if you're new to this world, we have a 9, just turned 9 yesterday, our first little one. We have 3 girls. And then we have a 7-year-old and then a 5-year-old. So, I mean, there's an age gap there. I've been having to do so much just mental shadow work around the age gap, and that we've had 3 naturally. Now we're working with fertility clinic, all in the divine timing. So I'm really leaning in on that, and that things are going to work out. And I think just like a capacity thing. But anytime, I always remind myself, anytime that we're getting ready for this big transition and this big, almost like quantum leap forward, we're really met with so much tension, so much like just when you stretch a rubber band and you pull it all the way back, you feel it. Things almost feel suffocating in a way, but at the bottom, like you feel this pit in the bottom of your stomach where you're just like, oh, this is going to be big. And if you learn, that's your intuition. If you learn, you just go, this is really going to happen. And so I think I'm just in that moment right now. And the more that I kind of like step into my zone, and I love sharing with you guys and love creating on this platform and stepping into my purpose, and now living from my calling and more aligned life, and like letting my witchy side show and be able to teach that and teach other moms how to be, and business owners, how to listen more to their intuition, not only in business, but in motherhood and life in general, and just living fully in every way, sense, and form, every season, every chapter, every day, every big moment, every little moment. And so that is the vibe that we're going into with 2025. So I hope that was a catch up. If you guys have questions, please make sure. I'm always happy to answer them, either over on Instagram if you're following, and come check out all the new things. My new website's up on there. Still a little bit work in the progress, but we're not going for perfection this year. We're just living fully. So I'm so excited to be able to bring this to you guys. And thank you so much for being here. Make sure that you're following over on the podcast if you haven't already, so you don't miss an episode. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button and make sure to click the like button, because it really helps support my channel. And I will see you guys in the next episode.